Right, I think we're live. Yeah. All right. Hey, everyone. So my name is Jordan. In today's guitar live stream workshop, I'm going to show you how to take a song, get the melody, get a basic rhythm with an arrangement so we can have a simple fingerstyle arrangement just using the melody and the chords. So let's take a look at that. So first I want to play it for you. So, so this is what we'll take a look at. We'll see how much we can get through depending on time. So we're going to do Stand By Me. This is an arrangement by Chris Murrin. The link to his arrangement, which I'm using here, is in the description box. So please check it out and purchase it if you like, because then that'll support him. And then that'll also give you the actual arrangement so you can have the written music to practice it. So. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have going on here. So let's look at the chords first. So the chords for this one starts on a G chord. And it's got an E minor. Then a C. D. Back to G. So that's basically the chord progression. So when you're doing a simple fingerstyle arrangement, the first thing you want to do is get the chords, so you know what the chords are. Okay, so we got the chords there. And then we're going to take a look at the melody. So the intro, basically it's just using this idea, I'm sure you recognize from the song, really iconic. So it's like a bass line, iconic bass line. So that is what we're using in the intro, and then when we get to the melody, or when we get to the verse, then it brings in the melody, which we'll look at. So since this is what stands out in the intro, so that's the first thing. You want to see what stands out in the song at that point. So in this song, in this intro, what stands out is that bass line. So that's what we would use. So the first thing you would do is figure out what the standout part is, which is this part here that we're looking at, and then play that. Okay, so we got that. So then what we want to do is we're going to add in chord tones. So we're not going to add in the whole chord because we're not trying to just strum through the song. We're doing a fingerstyle version of it. So you look at what the chord is on each bar. So on this first bar, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so that's that first bar. So in the first bar, that's when the G chord is happening. So if this is what we have as our main idea, we need something from the G chord that will go with that, but that won't take away from that idea. We want it to just be like an accompaniment in the background. So a simple way to start is just to take the bass note. So whatever the bass note is of the chord, just try that. So since this is the G chord, you can just take the G in the bass on the sixth string and then use that. So instead of just, we can add that G bass note in with it. And so even just that little bit, adding that bass note in there makes it sound really nice. Okay, and then there's that next bar. Da, da. Okay, and then on the third full bar, it changes to E minor is the chord that goes with it. And so the main idea is doing this. So we want to keep that, and then let's just try that same technique of or same approach of using the bass note. So the lowest bass note in the E minor chord is just that low E note, the sixth string. So let's add that. So instead of just, we're going to add in that low E note too. So far we have the G chord part, and the E minor chord part. Okay, and then the next bar, it's got a C. And then the main idea in this part is the dun, 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 dun. So we want to keep that, and when we want to add something from the chord to be an accompaniment to that. So if we were just going to add the low bass note, well, the C that we're playing here, that C, that's already the low bass note of the chord. So that won't quite work because then we won't really be adding anything. So since this note in the idea that we're doing is already low, we can do the opposite. We can take some high notes from the chord and put those in. So instead of just, we can add in the second and third string from the C chord. So that's what we do here. So instead of just, we have, so you can tell these two notes, that's just adding some accompaniment, just kind of like backing the main part. So let's look at what we have so far. G. So that sounds really cool when you add in those two higher notes. It kind of changes it up a bit. And then before we look at the next bar, I did want to remind you, if you're in the live stream, that you can put your comments and questions, mainly questions, so I can see what you're working on or what you need support with. If you want to put your questions in the chat, then I'll see what you have, and then we'll try and take a look at that. It can be questions about what we're working on right now, or it can be questions about things you're learning on your own, or just questions you have about guitar playing in general, stuff you're wondering about how to improve your playing. So feel free to put those there to let me know. Or if you're watching this live stream as a replay, then you can put your questions in the comments section, and then I'll see those and I'll address them in a future live stream, most likely the next live stream. And you can also put ideas that you have for things you'd like to see covered in another live stream there too. So let's look at that next bar. So the next one is on the D. It's a D chord. So we just had, so now we're on this. Here's where the idea is now. Da, 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 da. So if that's our main idea, we want to add some extra notes to accompany that. So same thing like the bar before with the C chord. Here, we can see that that low note that we're doing, that's already the lowest note of the chord, of the D chord. So we can't really add any lower notes. We could take other notes of the D chord, like the F sharp here or the A, but we're keeping it as a straight D chord, not an inverted D chord, which is what that would be with a different note of the chord in the lower bass. So since we're keeping the lowest note as the actual D note, which is that, the lowest note of the normal D chord, then we're not going to use that because that's already the part of the idea. So let's do what we did on the C chord and add some two higher notes from the chord. So if this is our idea, let's add second and third string. Let's add those notes from the D chord. Yeah, that sounds kind of nice. It's like the bar before when we did the C. Now we have, so that plays it out really nice. And then it just goes back after that to the G again. So we can keep the same idea that we had at the beginning. So that's the intro. So let's see how that sounds all together. Okay, so now we're here to the verse. So the verse, here's the melody. Okay, so that's the melody. So let's see what we can do now. So this time, what we can do, so we're on the G chord, this part of the melody. All of that is all on the G chord. So let's see what we can add there. So if we're doing, we can try adding the low bass note. But now that we're kind of a little bit into the verse and we're trying to get a little bit more rhythm, we can add some more instead of just the bass note by itself, like that. We could try doing an alternating bass. So we can do the sixth and the fourth strings of the G chord. So that's a basic accompaniment pattern. Just do an alternating bass for whatever chord you're doing. So let's try that. So that works for that part. So we got the melody, da da da, then the alternating bass, da 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 da. So you can hear that, da 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 da, but you still got the melody. And you put them together. So that's a nice simple way to do it. So that works. So let's do that. And then we can do a little, adding any kind of walking basses, either up or down, is always a good thing to add. Sounds really nice. So here we can do the walking down to the E minor chord, right? So if we're on the G chord and we're going to an E minor chord, then the bass line can go G for the G chord, then you can do an F sharp down to the E minor. So that's a technique you can use a lot of places in a lot of different ways. When you're going from one chord to another chord, see whatever the bass note is, and then just go down the scale. That means take notes from the scale or the key that you're in, which since we're in the key of G, that'd be G, then F sharp, and then E. So we just do the bass note of the chord, whatever note comes next, that's from the scale, and then the note of the next chord. So if we do that, we would have oops, sorry, let me do that again. Da, da, da. So that's a cool way to kind of lead it right into that E minor chord. So then the next part, let's see, we're at next part of the melody. We have when the night is dark. So that's that part. So for that melody, that's all still on the E minor chord. And so since that part of the melody almost really you want it to stand out a lot since it's so kind of has a nice rhythmic feel and it's very kind of emotive. What we can do there is not add much to the accompaniment part. Since we already did that lower bass line, that walking bass down, let's just let that low E ring since it's in the E minor chord. So it'll be accompanying it, that kind of ringing out E, but then we'll really hear the stand out, but we still got the E to give some kind of background to it. So if we do that, we have okay, so then on that next bar, we're still on E minor. So we just did, the melody was just this part. Then the next part of the melody is, okay, da, da, da. So for that bar, when we just ended on, we can go back to that alternating bass. So if we're in the E minor chord, we can do the sixth string and the fourth string again, and just use that kind of accompaniment pattern, the alternating bass from the E minor chord, since we're on the E minor. So these two bars with the E minor would be like, so that first bar, the E is just ringing out. The next bar, got that alternating bass, and then back to the melody. Okay, so it's kind of nice when you switch it up a little bit like that. So it's like we got this alternating bass, and then the walk down, letting it ring, and then back to a alternating bass. Okay, so then the next bar is a C. So then here, so basically we just did. So that's the melody here. Da, 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 da. So that's all we have on the C chord part. Da, 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 da. So since we're playing that on the third string and the second string, we can just add the C in the bass, just kind of just do one C on in the bass of the C chord on the first and the third beats. So that just kind of keeps it smooth and even. So we have, oh, sorry. So you still got the melody, da, 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 with that bass. Da, 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 da. So if we go from the E minor part, so that's a good way to do the C chord. That C chord part. Excuse me. Okay, so then we got D is the next part. Let's see what the melody is doing there. So that's a pretty simple part of the melody. Da, da, da. Because right before we just did da, 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 da. Then we go da, da, da. So since all we're doing is da, 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 we can do what we did just on the bar before with the C chord, where we just add a D, the lowest note of the D chord, on the first and the third beats, just to kind of even out the bar, break out the bar evenly. So we could do, so all the bass note is doing is da, da, while the melody's going da, da, da. So you got, so if we put that with the C part, since those two bars, the C and the D chord parts are kind of similar, we'd have, see. So you can hear the melody there. Da, 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 da. And then you can hear the accompaniment with it. And so even though the accompaniment is really simple there, da, 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 it goes with the melody really nice. So let's play what we have so far. So we have, and then this last part is just, so that bar is on a G chord, and that's the last part of the melody, just so the melody is simple there. So then, since that's the end of this idea, the end of the verse, the end of this melodic idea, then you can kind of do something to show that it's ending, which is with the accompaniment we can go and then just end it there. We can still do that alternating bass and then just end it on the G note there. So it'll just be like, okay, so that's all we're adding on the end. Just the G chord with that alternating bass, 6 and 4 strings. So let's put that all together, that whole verse. Okay, so there's the verse. So let's take a look at doing the verse again, but then with some variations. So, so let's see what we have here. Do that again. So that was similar, but you can hear there's some parts that are different. So we started with the alternating bass for the accompaniment. There's the melody, da, 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 then alternating bass, so that's the same. And then here's what the melody's doing now. So now after, now it's going da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. So the melody's a little different here. So let's see. So on the da, 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 that's still on the G chord when it's doing that. So we can do that walk down again in the bass. But we can add, instead of just the bass, we can add that note there on the third string. So we have, so that's kind of nice. That just adds that minor third interval right there, which is a nice sounding interval on guitar. Thirds and sixths sounds really good on guitar. So you could do, so instead of just, I'm sorry, instead of just, you can go, and so that's, that third there, that gets the melody. So our melody was, well, when we put that there, that gets the melody. So it's a nice sounding interval and it's the melody note too. So that works out really good. And then on the next bar, we're on an E minor. That's the chord on here. And the melody is da, da, da. So let's see what we can do there. We can do the alternating bass. So that works there. The melody is da, da, da. And we just do alternating bass from the E minor. 6th, 4th, 6th string. Okay, so let's see what we have all together there. And the melody on this next bar is da, 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 da. That's the melody on the next bar, and that's still the E minor chord. So we can keep that same alternating bass. So now we have, so we got the melody, and we got the alternating bass. We're gonna put those together. Okay, and then the next is C chord, and then the melody for this next bar and the bar after it is the same, and we can have the same accompaniment too as we did in the first version of the verse, so the first part of the verse, first run through. So we can use that same accompaniment. We just have the lowest bass note of the chord on the first and third beats. So it'd be like, oh. And then the last bar, just like the end of the verse before. So the bass is just doing it's on the G chord, and you're just doing the alternating bass. And the melody is just the. So let's try playing through that whole second version, or the whole kind of second part of the verse. Okay, so let's look at the chorus. So the chorus melody is, that's the first part of it. So darling, darling. So for that part, let's see what we can do there. The first part of the melody is just at the very end of the last bar, so we won't do much there. But then on the next bar we have, so that's all on the G chord. So let's use the G bass note of the chord, the lowest note of the chord. And since we really wanted to highlight the melody again, kind of like the other bar earlier when we did the, and all we did was have the 6th string ringing. We'll do the same thing here. We just have the 6th string ringing, so it's providing some background, but not too much, so that way you can really hear the melody. So we'll do a, so we still got the 6th string ringing, but the melody stands out. Okay, and then the next bar we have, so that's the G chord still. So, and since this is the chorus, the melody is really standing out throughout a lot of it, so we'll keep the accompaniment fairly simple for the most part. So we'll just do, keeping that lowest bass note of the chord on the first and third beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have that at the same time as the melody. Oh. So we put those together. Okay, and then the next bar is still the G chord, and then the melody is, sorry, the melody is da, 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 da. So that's the melody, and then we'll do the same thing with the bass. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep the sixth string, lowest note. So when you put those together, the da 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 with the bass you have. Okay, and then the next bar is the E minor, and the melody is. Okay, so we have. That's the E minor chord. So let's keep that same kind of accompaniment with the 1, 2, 3, 4, the lowest note of the chord on the first and third beats, just to kind of keep it. So we got some background, but it's simple. So then if you put that together with the melody, okay, and then the next bar is 1, 2, 3, 4, da, da, still the E minor. So we can just keep that same accompaniment. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that bar melody and the accompaniment would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So the two bars of the E minor would be like. Okay, so then the next bar, we're on a C chord, and the melody is. But we're going to add in a little bit of some interpretation. We're going to do. So instead of just. Da, 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 we're going to go. Da, 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 da. So being a little bit of interpretation on the melody, adding some into it, and it sounds really nice. Da, da, da. So that's what we're doing in the melody. So in the bass, let's just, since we're still trying to have the melody stand out, let's just keep that first and third beats of the melody. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll have. So the melody is da da da, and the bass is da da. Put together, you got. Okay, and then the next bar is on the D, and then the melody is. So we had. Oh, sorry. So the melody on this one is. So we just did. Da, da, da. So that's the melody. Da, da, da. So it's a little bit offbeat. It's 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Da, da, da. So we'll just do that simple bass note of the D chord, and we'll just let it ring all the way through. And then it does the same thing on the next bar where it's a G chord, and the melody is the same. So let's do the same thing with the bass. Just let the lowest note of the bass ring through. So on the D chord we have, and on the G chord part we have. So you can hear the melodies doing the same thing. Da 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 da, and then the bass is going da da. So we put it all together. Okay, and then let's just add on the very end, a nice way to kind of end the song, just do a little arpeggio on whatever chord you ended on. Since when we ended on a G chord, you can just arpeggiate your G chord. 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, sorry, 6th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st strings. Just hit some of the main notes of that G chord. So let's check out the whole chorus. So there's that little interlude to the chorus. Then the melody. Rest of the melody. Okay, so one more time, we're just the melody, and then add in the bass so you can see how it goes together. So the melody is. Oh, sorry. And then that arpeggio at the end. So then if we add in the bass onto that. Okay, so I hope that helps you out with getting some ideas for how to take a melody and chords of a song that you like and then change it into an arrangement. So basically, just to recap, all you want to do is you want to find out what the chords are, you want to get the melody, make sure you play the melody and the chords, then take just a few notes of the chord, and a lot of times it's the lowest note, sometimes a note a few strings higher than that, and then you find a nice basic accompaniment that supplements the melody. So if the melody is standing out a lot, you want a real basic accompaniment like we did in those parts. But if the melody is not standing out so much, you can do a little bit more, maybe like that alternating bass, and then you just put it together and then see what you can do. Okay, so I hope that helped you guys out a lot, and be sure to like the video if you thought it was helpful, and we'll subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and then we'll see you at the next live stream. All right, see you then.